You're lying on the couch on a Sunday afternoon, nothing on the calendar, no errands, no deadlines, just quiet. And instead of feeling relaxed, you feel this creeping sense of wrongness. Like you're forgetting something important, even though you've checked your phone 3 times. Your body is still, but your mind is running an inventory of everything you could be doing instead. The laundry, the emails, the project that isn't due for 2 weeks. And underneath all of it is this quiet, persistent feeling that you don't deserve to be here. That rest is something you have to earn. That if you're not producing, you're wasting time. That stopping means you're lazy. This looks like anxiety. It feels like guilt. But it's actually something much deeper. It's your nervous system responding to rest the same way it would respond to danger. And if you've ever felt this, you need to understand something first. You are not broken, you are not lazy, and you are not imagining this. Your brain learned somewhere along the way that your worth is conditional. That love, approval, safety, or belonging only come when you're useful. And now, even when no one is watching, even when you're completely alone, the moment you stop moving, an alarm goes off inside you. Not because rest is wrong, but because your brain has been trained to associate it with rejection. That guilt you feel when you rest, it's not a character flaw, it's a protective mechanism, and it made perfect sense once. Let's start with where this begins. For many people, it starts in childhood, not always in obvious ways, sometimes it's subtle. A parent who praised good grades but said nothing when you were just playing. A household where everyone was always busy, always moving, and stillness felt like you were in the way. Or maybe it was louder. Maybe you were told directly that laziness was the worst thing you could be. That idle hands were dangerous. That rest was something other people did, but not you. Not if you wanted to succeed. The brain of a child is incredibly attuned to survival. And survival for a child doesn't mean food and shelter, it means connection. It means being valued by the people who take care of you. So if the message you received, implicitly or explicitly, was that your value came from what you did and not who you were, your brain adapted. It learned that productivity equals safety, that doing equals deserving, and it built a system to keep you moving because stopping felt like disappearing. This is about attachment. When your sense of worth becomes tied to your output, rest stops being neutral. It becomes a threat. Because if you're not doing anything, what are you worth? The brain doesn't ask that question calmly. It panics, and guilt is how that panic shows up. Think about the parent who only seemed proud when you brought something home, a trophy, a report card, a scholarship. They may have loved you deeply. But if that love felt most available when you achieved, your brain made a connection. I am lovable when I am productive, and the inverse. I am not lovable when I am still. Now you're an adult. That parent might not even be in your life anymore, but the wiring remains. You rest and the brain goes into alert mode. You're doing nothing. You're falling behind. You're wasting time. Someone else is working harder. You should be further along by now. The guilt arrives like clockwork, and it feels so real, so urgent that you get up. You check your email, you clean something. You start a task you didn't even need to do, anything to stop the feeling. And here's the part nobody tells you. The guilt isn't actually about rest. It's about worth. It's your brain scanning for proof that you still matter, and when it can't find productivity, it interprets that as evidence of failure. The guilt is a signal, a warning. Your brain saying, you're slipping, you need to fix this, you need to do something. But the problem is you can't outrun it. Because no amount of productivity will ever feel like enough when the system itself is broken. When your worth is conditional, there's no finish line. There's just more. Some people describe this as feeling like they're always behind. Like everyone else got a manual on how to relax, and they didn't. They see other people take naps, read books, watch TV without guilt, and they think, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just enjoy this? And the answer is not that you're wired differently. It's that you were taught differently. You learned that rest is a reward, not a right, and rewards have to be earned. This shows up everywhere. In relationships, where you feel like you have to be doing something for someone to justify your presence. At work, where you stay late even when the work is done, because leaving on time feels like quitting. On vacation, where you can't fully unplug because the moment you do, the guilt creeps in. You scroll your work email, you plan the next project, you stay tethered to productivity because untethering feels like freefall. Your nervous system is in a constant state of low-level activation. Not full panic, but never fully calm either. And rest, which is supposed to regulate the nervous system, instead triggers it. Because rest requires you to trust that you are enough without doing anything, and that trust was never built. Here's where it gets more complicated. As you get older, this behavior doesn't go away. It shifts. In your 20s, the guilt around rest might feel like ambition, like drive. You're building something, you're climbing, you're supposed to be hungry. But in your 30s and 40s, it starts to feel different. The body gets tired, the mind gets tired, and the same behavior that once felt like momentum starts to feel like a prison. You want to rest, you need to rest, but you can't, because the guilt is still there, louder now, because you're older and you think you should have figured this out by now. And then for some people, something interesting happens. They burn out, not once but repeatedly, and each time the crash is harder. The body forces rest because the mind refuses to allow it. And in those moments when you physically cannot move, when you're too exhausted to feel guilty, there's this strange, fleeting sense of relief. Not because you're burned out, but because for the first time in a long time you have permission. The body gave you an excuse, and the brain finally goes quiet. But here's the thing. Burnout shouldn't be the only way you're allowed to stop. And yet, for so many people, it is. Because the internal system is set up in a way where rest is only acceptable when it's forced. When it's a breakdown, not a choice, the brain is trying to protect you. That's what makes this so hard to untangle. The guilt, the restlessness, the constant need to do more, it's not sabotage. It's survival. It's the same mechanism that kept you safe when you were young and your worth felt uncertain. The problem is, the brain doesn't update automatically. It doesn't know that you're safe now, that no one is watching, that your value isn't in question. It's still running the old program. The one that says, if you stop, you'll lose everything. And so rest becomes the enemy, not because you don't want it, but because wanting it feels dangerous. This is also about control. In a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable, productivity is something you can control. You can check things off. You can measure progress. You can prove to yourself and to others that you're moving forward. Rest doesn't offer that. Rest is surrender. It's letting go of control. And for someone whose worth has always been tied to output, letting go feels like losing yourself. There's also this. Rest requires presence. It requires you to be with yourself, without distraction, without accomplishment, without proof of value. And for many people, that's the hardest part. Because when you stop doing, you have to start being. And if you've spent your whole life believing that your worth is in what you do, being still forces you to confront a question you've been avoiding. Who am I when I'm not producing anything? That's terrifying. So the brain fills the space. It creates guilt. It generates tasks. It keeps you moving so you never have to sit with that question. This isn't about discipline. It's not about laziness. It's about emotional safety. For you, rest has never felt safe. It's felt like exposure, like vulnerability, like proof that you're not enough. And the guilt is the brain's way of trying to protect you from that feeling. It's saying, don't stop. If you stop, you'll have to feel everything you've been outrunning. And here's what makes this so exhausting. The behavior itself becomes a cage. You wanted rest to feel good. You wanted to be someone who could relax without guilt, who could take a day off and not spiral, who could sit still and feel okay. But every time you try, the guilt shows up, and so you stop trying. You accept that rest isn't for you, that you're just built this way, that some people can relax and some people can't, and you're in the second group. But that's not true. You're not built this way. You were taught this way, and the difference matters because what was learned can be unlearned, not quickly, not easily, but it's possible. The guilt you feel when you rest is a symptom. It's pointing to something deeper, a belief system that was built a long time ago in a context that made sense by a brain that was just trying to keep you safe. And it worked. For a while it worked. The productivity kept you connected. It kept you valued. It kept you moving forward. But now it's keeping you from something you need. And the brain doesn't know how to let go. So what do you do with this? You don't fix it. You don't force it. You don't shame yourself for feeling guilty when you rest. You start by understanding that the guilt is not the problem. It's a messenger. It's telling you that somewhere deep down you still believe that your worth is conditional. That you still think you have to earn the right to exist without producing something. And maybe, just maybe, you start to question that belief, not by arguing with it, Not by trying to convince yourself otherwise, but by noticing it, by seeing it for what it is, a story, a very old story, one that made sense once, one that protected you. But one that you don't have to keep believing. You are not lazy, you are not broken, you are not failing. You are someone whose brain learned to equate rest with danger and productivity with love. And that's not a flaw, that's trauma, that's adaptation, that's survival. And if you feel guilty when you rest, it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong, it means you're human. It means you're carrying something heavy. And it means that maybe for the first time you're allowing yourself to stop long enough to feel it. That's not weakness, that's courage.